Assalamu alaikum students. I hope you are safe and well and enjoying the benefits of our YouTube channel. Today we will start Unit 3 Oxford Progressive English Book 6. The title is School Days and the page number is 50. This unit will introduce us to a new topic, that is fiction. First we will discuss what is fiction. Fiction is a name that is given to the stories that are not real, that are imaginary stories. The stories or events that really do not happen, but the writer uses his imagination to make up these stories. The characters and places of these stories are mostly imaginary. So fiction are short stories that are not real. The stories we are going to read today are written by Charles Dickens. His full name is Charles John Huffam Dickens. He was born in 1812 and died in 1870. So basically, he was born in 19th century. The part of literature we are going to study today will depict the circumstances and situations of 19th century. We are going to study two stories today. First is The Schoolmaster and the second is Oliver Twist. It is said about Dickens that in many of his novels he wrote about schools. This is because he believed that many schools in England were harsh towards the readers. The story The Schoolmaster is taken from his novel Hard Times. It was published in 1854. Dear students, I want to remind you one thing, that when you come to class 6 and when you read English of class 6, you have to learn one new thing, that is vocabulary, word synonyms. And also the information given to you regarding the text, you should keep in mind. It will help you in solving your computer-based test. Let's discuss our story, The Schoolmaster. This story is based on the character of Thomas Gradgrind. The second part of his name, Gradgrind. This word means a person who believes on scientific facts. So is the character of Thomas Gradgrind. He wants his pupils to have nothing to do with imagination and just to learn facts. 19th century is the age of industrialization, when people turned into the machines and everything that mattered to them was money. During that period, there was a teacher whose name was Thomas Gradgrind. One day in his class, a new girl came and her name was Sissy. She was shy but imaginative. Mr. Gradgrind picked her out and asked her questions. Sissy hesitated and replied shyly. Thomas Gradgrind did not like her, so he picked one of his old students whose name was Bitzer. Bitzer was trained by Thomas Gradgrind, and he was the student who also believed in facts. So he answered the same questions with exact facts and figures. Then Mr. Gradgrind pointed out, Sissy, this is the way to answer the questions. Sissy went red and she was embarrassed. In this story, Charles Dickens wanted to highlight the harsh environment in the schools of England. The story is interesting, but you have to do one thing. Open your books at page number 51 and start reading the story. You also need to underline difficult words and find their meanings and write them on the words. Never mind, I have given you words meanings on the next picture. So here you go, you have words meanings from the story. It will make you easy to understand the story. Now you know that you have to do the reading and you have to learn what the story is about. And also you have to learn these word meanings. Not exactly, but you have to keep them in mind. The next exercise we are going to solve is reading for detail at page number 50. Only solve this exercise if you have done the reading already. Let's discuss question number 1. Why did the writer describe Mr. Gradgrind as a cannon? Cannon is a gun that is used to fire the balls at the enemy. So, the character of Mr. Gradgrind is represented as a cannon. Question is, why did writer describe Mr. Gradgrind as a cannon? So, can you tell me? Yes, because he was loaded with facts like cannon loaded with balls. Question number 2. Mr. Gradgrind calls Sissy girl number 20. What does this tell you about his idea about education? In my opinion, he called her with a figure, that is number 20. It tells that he believes that education is knowledge of useful facts. Number 3. What do you think Mr. Gradgrind thinks of Sissy's father's profession? After reading the story, you may know that Sissy told Gradgrind about his father's profession. But his reaction shows that he didn't seem to believe her. Number 4. How do Bitzer and Sissy differ in appearance? It is very obvious from the text that their appearance is different. One is dark-haired and dark-eyed, while other is light-eyed and light-haired. This is your job to find out who is dark-haired and who is light-haired. Number 5. How do responses of Sissy and Bitzer to Mr. Gradgrind's question differ? So it is also very obvious that Sissy used her emotions to answer, but Bitzer told only facts. The answers to these questions are also given in the next slide. The next thing we are going to do is differentiate between factual and imaginative paragraph, or factual and imaginative description. We are having two paragraphs here. The topic is same my classroom, but there are two different descriptions. One is factual, other is imaginative. When we are going to write a factual paragraph, it tells us facts. For example, if you are going to write about classroom, we are going to write how many meters long it is, how many windows are there, that is a fact, that there are two windows or one window. What colors are the walls, a fact that they are of white or green. How many children are in it, we are going to tell a figure. How many pictures are on the wall. So this is how we are going to write a factual paragraph, factual description that tells us only fact. The other is imaginative. That would be the imaginary, that would be the creation of our brain or mind. For example, do you like being in it? How do you feel when you look out of the windows? What does the color of the wall make you feel? Does it feel friendly? What sorts of pictures are on the wall? Okay, here I have given you two paragraphs, two solved paragraphs. One is factual and the other is imaginative. What you are going to do, identify the type of passage, whether it is factual or imaginative, and then complete the passage. I will read them for you. Number 1. I study in class 6. It is dash meters long. It has a window at the back which provides light and air. It is painted in off-white color. There are 23 benches where my classmates sit and study. And rest of the details you are going to complete this passage. Paragraph number 2. My classroom is huge and spacious one. It has windows at the back so that the room doesn't become suffocating and fresh air prevails in the room. My classroom is very clean and big. Identify which passage is factual and which one is imaginative. Then complete the passage. Let's come to our next story, that is Oliver Twist, at page number 55. This story is also written by Charles Dickens and taken from his novel Oliver Twist. This story tells us about the life of poor people in slums of England in 19th century. Again in 19th century because Charles Dickens was born in 19th century and he died in the same century. He wrote about the situations of 19th century. Slum areas in England are called rookeries. You have to learn this fact. This story, Oliver Twist, talks about society and class. This tells us that how miserable is the life of lower class, how miserable was the life of lower class in 19th century London. Reading this story, we would be able to know about the life of poor people in 19th century in England. I have given you a summary of this story. You have to do the reading by yourself. Let's discuss the summary. Oliver is the main character of this story. He is born in a workhouse in a small town about 70 miles from London. He is born in workhouse. It means his mother was also doing work in that place. England in the early part of the 19th century. His mother dies immediately after his birth. Oliver is brought up at a child farm in the country until he is about 8 years old. At this point, when he is only 8 years old, the parish officials, the authorities of that place, who are running the child farm, they decide that it's time for Oliver to start working when he is only 8 years old. And they send him back to the workhouse. But Oliver commits to unpardonable offense of asking for more food when he is close to starving. As the workhouse gives a very little food to the workers, that is not enough for them, that is not sufficient for them, and Oliver goes and asks for more food. That is an offense, that is a crime. In result of this crime, the parish authorities offer anyone who can buy Oliver for £5 only and take him as a slave. So this is the whole story. You have to do the reading. And to make it easy for you, I have given you word meanings. Let's now discuss question answers of this story. Topic is reading for understanding and page number is 58. Question 1 is describe the life of boys in poor house. Which aspect would you find most unpleasant? Give your reasons. How they spent their life in poor house. As you have read the story, their life is miserable and they don't have enough to eat. What I dislike the most is negative attitude of people towards the boys. Because negative attitude grows hatred. Next question is, how do Henry and Ben exploit Oliver? If you have read the story, you would be able to know who is Ben, who is Henry, who is Oliver, and what Ben and Henry done to Oliver. Yes, they have exploited Oliver and they have let him try to do things on his own without their help. As they have sent him to ask for more food. That is exploitation, because they knew that asking more food is a crime. But they sent Oliver to ask for more food and they sent him alone. That is how they exploited him. Question number 3 is, what differences do you see between Ben and Henry? Henry and Ben both are negative characters, but what is difference between both of them? As we have read the dialogue, when they talk about having less amount to eat, Ben says we have to do with what we have. That means Ben is compromising. But Henry says, if I didn't get enough food, I will eat one of you. Henry has wicked nature. Next question is, how do the gentleman and Oliver view one another. As we have seen in the start of this play, that gentleman and Oliver come face to face with one another, and Oliver is frightened of them. And gentlemen think that Oliver is a fool, and they say it loud that he is a fool. Question 5. Explain the reaction to Oliver's request. So we have read that when Oliver asked for more food, what happened? Mr. Bumble was angry, Cook was angry, gentlemen were angry. They all were surprised and then angry at him. So these are question answers from Oliver Twist, and we have also discussed question answers from the school days. What is your task to do is write these question and answers on your notebooks. This is your homework. You have to learn these question answers as well because these are important for your exams. This was all for today's lesson. Take a very good care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.